all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from the Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we're going to have a fun-filled Friday show, which I know everyone's looking forward to the weekend. It's a hot one out there in the state of Arkansas weather-wise, but still some things to talk about, especially when we go to heading into the weekend and dealing with some updates and everything from the Razorback side of things. But again, basketball. Anything that's basketball related is always going to get discussed and talked about here on this show, especially if any updates of note end up coming about. And that's exactly what happened with the official announcement of some new Arkansas Razorback men's basketball additions. Not players, though. Staff additions. Because, you know, whenever a new coach comes in, like Calipari has, it's always really fascinating to see the type of direction that he goes with coaches, assistant coaches, anybody that he decides to retain from the previous regime or that he decides to bring in, and maybe some reasons as to why he chose them, why he wanted to hire them, and why they're coming about. But as you can see here now on this little graphic that the University of Arkansas put up, they are welcoming some of the new additions. And you have a special assistant to the head coach, you have a general manager, you have a chief of staff, you have a video coordinator, and assistant video coordinator. So according to the official release, these are the people that were added to the mix and kind of what their roles will be and what the resume is and everything. This is according to the University of Arkansas. And we'll start with Bruiser Flint. First off, you cannot have a better name than Bruiser Flint. Like, truly. Shout out to his parents for being like, I'm going to name my kid Bruiser. I wish that there were more kids named Bruiser. Who knows? Maybe there are out there, but I just don't know about it. But that might be one of the coolest and most unique names ever. And I can't wait to say it as much as humanly possible with his name being Bruiser. But Bruiser Flint, he is the one that has been tabbed as the special assistant to the head coach at Arkansas. He was on head coach John Calipari's staff at Kentucky from 2020 to 2024 and at UMass from 1989 to 96. He succeeded Calipari as the head coach at UMass from 96 to 2001, and he was also the head coach at Drexel from 2001 to 2006. He began his coaching career at Coppin State and was also on the Indiana staff as an assistant from 2017 to 2020. He was a star player at St. Joseph's, where he was inducted into the Hawks Athletic Hall of Fame in 1998. So, obviously, you know, you're going to have a lot of people with experience and probably some connections there to Calipari. But Bruiser Flint, which we've known a little bit about him, and we've kind of known that he's been on staff, at least in some capacity, to be the assistant, the special assistant to the head coach is, you know, obviously an interesting gig, because you're like, okay, so what all does that mean? What all goes into it? But for crying out loud, if you're able to have a guy that's in a role like this, who's been a head coach for many years in college basketball, that's always a plus. I mean, to be the UMass head coach for 5-6 seasons and then also at Drexel for 5-6 seasons, that's something. That's something, because head coaching experience can always go a long way. You can always bounce a lot of ideas off of them, and you can also feel a sense of connection, kind of being on the same page of where everybody's wanting to go and how they're wanting to handle things. So it seems like him and Cal obviously are very close. They felt so good about him that when Cal left UMass to go to Memphis, he just took over as the head coach there. So, I mean, that was, I think, kind of showing exactly how good they felt about him at UMass. Or I guess he didn't go to Memphis. That's when he went to the Nets in the NBA and then went to Memphis after that. But still, pretty impressive, though, to be able to have him just as a simple special assistant to the head coach, which I'm not, you know, like putting any sort of like connotation on it or saying it's a negative or anything like that. But my goodness, anytime that you're able to add some sort of guy like that with a resume like that, it's always extremely beneficial. And he's going to be a huge help to Arkansas and to Coach John Calipari. And being at different programs too, you know, whether it's helping them with recruiting, helping them with scheduling, helping them with whatever it is, I think he's going to be a huge get, and he's been obviously somebody that's been talked about. And then the other one would be Chris Woolard. He's going to serve as the men's basketball general manager, which we know GMs, it's kind of funny to hear that. You think of GMs in the NBA, it's a little bit different from the college basketball GM, but maybe some similarities. But he's going to handle the day-to-day operations of the Razorback basketball program, as well as continuing to serve as executive director for the Calipari Foundation. So kind of a dual threat there. He has worked with Calipari for the past 13 seasons at Kentucky. The pair first crossed paths while Calipari was the head coach at Memphis, and Woolard was associate commissioner of the Conference USA. He has also coached at Murray State and his alma mater, UCLA. So when you hear that, handling the day-to-day operations of the Razorback basketball program, that's what I've always laughed about when anytime you have job opportunities that pop up or job descriptions pop up and you see something like, oh, he's going to be handling the day-to-day operations. Okay, so what is the day-to-day operations? Well, the operating that happens daily with the business. Okay, so what does that mean? Operating it, daily. It's like there's so many things that can go into that, but it is something that's needed. And that type of role can really expand to a lot of different things. It could be something as simple as, just making sure the organization for, players and what they're doing and where they need to be for the program, for the scheduling of, like, not just for talking about scheduling other opponents, but I'm talking about doing things like, all right, so what's the day-to-day? Okay, we're having practice here, or this is when we're having a team meeting here, scouting's here, and keeping that logistic, getting all the stuff that kind of makes the behind-the-scenes thing work seems to be the role of what a GM, and keep on a GM, but the basketball general manager for what Arkansas will be having with Calipari. It kind of seems in that role. And also the fact that he's going to be the executive director of the Calipari Foundation, there's a trust there. There's a trust, and it seems like it's a trust of organization. Because to be able to handle a basketball program, you got to be organized, but also a foundation like that. So there's a lot of organization. Calipari trusting Chris Woolard, so that's what he's going to do. Now, Lunatha or Luntha, I don't know how to pronounce it, so I apologize if I rhyme, but Pryor. She's going to be the men's basketball chief of staff. She'll be working closely with Chris Woolard in the same regard and coordinating Coach Calipari's schedule while assisting Calipari with his travel and recruiting responsibilities. So you hear that, and you're like, okay, that's definitely important. Somebody that's helping them out with traveling and doing recruiting and recruiting times and dates and schedules and locations and everything. But here's also kind of the kicker, or at least the thing that's really telling about the role that it's going to be. So she has worked with Calipari for 24 years, spanning stints at Memphis, Kentucky, and now Arkansas. So folks thinking about that, what year is it? 2024. So 24 years ago, she started working with Cal at Memphis in 2000, the year 2000. Now, I could be wrong about this, but considering that stretch of what Cal has been able to accomplish at Memphis and at Kentucky, it's safe to say that he has had coaches under him go. He's probably had changes of GMs, changes of special assistants, changes of so many different positions. But I think there's always something to be said when someone like Mrs. Pryor here, someone like her has been there for 24 years alongside Cal. That is a type of working relationship that you can't really underestimate, because anytime that you're able to have that type of working relationship with anybody, I mean, think about it in your own job. How many people have you worked with in your company for 24 years straight? Probably not too many. But to take it a step further, how many people have you worked directly with, or has worked directly under you, and you've been together from the get-go for 24 years? Odds are next to none. So things change, people want to go and do different things or get promotions or, go elsewhere, whatever it is. But apparently what Cal and Pryor have together, you really just can't put an emphasis on how important that is and how important it is to Cal. So I think it's cool that she's coming along, bringing her along with him. And again, I'll be. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, following. Okay, so this recruiting visit must have been scheduled by Mrs. Pryor. It's like, no, it's going to be behind the scenes. We're not going to see much of it, but again, shows how much that Cal respects her, how much Cal needs her, and how it's important to the success of the program. And then next, you got Kevin Buddy, which I love. In the official announcement, it's spelled Butty, but in the official statement here by the University of Arkansas, they give a pronunciation where it's like pronounced Buddy. It's like, yeah, I kind of figured, not Butty, it's more Buddy, but still, he's going to be the Razorbacks video coordinator. He spent the last season as the video coordinator at Kentucky and held similar positions with the Rio Grande Vipers, the Los Angeles Lakers, and San Diego State. So we're talking about a guy that's been at major level college basketball, major level NBA basketball, and also, G League, D League, like the minor league, essentially, for basketball too, all over the place. So lots of experience there. And I guess it was his first year at Kentucky last year. And so he's been able to bring him on board. And then finally, the last one to be announced is Kevin Gallagher. He is the assistant video coordinator, a position he held last season also at Kentucky. So it seems like both of these guys came together, and both of these guys were at Kentucky for 1 year just last year. But what was a little bit more unique about Kevin is that he was the manager for Kentucky from 2018 to 2021, and then a graduate assistant in the Kentucky video department from 2021 to 2023. So even though he's in that position pretty, newly, he's still somebody who has worked in the Kentucky program with Calipari and all of that. So a lot of familiar faces for Cal. And it's not necessarily surprising. And again, it's not a bad thing at all. But I will say the rest of the staff pretty much has been assembled. And I don't even know if we've had a chance to talk much about the staff that has been assembled. But we'll do that here in just a second. But first, folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at BroThrow.com/Natty. You know that you love watching sports, and right now the NBA Finals is all the rage. Celtics are up 3-0, going for that sweep. Well, how you feeling about it? I know we're all liking to bet on a lot of different games, a lot of different matchups, but right now you can go on BroThrow.com/Natty and you can go to bet against real people. That's right, real people in your community. We have a Natty State sports community right there on BroThrow.com, and if you go in there, you can join it and you can start betting against people like yourselves, that listeners and watchers of all of us here at Natty State. So when you go in there and you check it out and you can see the different bets that have been put on the line, like right now, Drake, I don't think it's that Drake, but Drake has put down $110 on the Mavericks +2. So if you're feeling like the Celtics are going for that big sweep and they're going to win by at least 2 points, then go and take on Drake and put down $110. But you're probably wondering, like, okay, well, I don't like the line or anything. Well, how about this one? Kawhi, I don't think it's that Kawhi either, but Kawhi has bet $25 and it's a pick'em in the line there. But for the Celtics is what he got in on it, a pick'em. So he picked the Celtics. You feeling the Mavericks are going to win straight up? Well, then bet $25. You can do it on the spreads. You can do it on the over-unders, and you can do it on the money line, and you do it against real people. You save a ton of money in the juice. BroThrow is not the house that's going to collect this percentage that's going to kind of take away money from you and your winnings. They're going to make it easy for you. So check it out today. I promise you, it'll be something that you've never experienced before, but it'll be addicting, it'll be fun, and it'll be something that you can have real interactions with real people in a community-based type of sports betting. So go to BroThrow.com/Natty. You can enter in code Natty as well. And check out the Natty State Sports official community. And yeah, it's free to sign up. You have to be 21 years or older, and it's available in most states. So go and check it out today. Again, at BroThrow.com/Natty. All right, so we've been talking about the coaching staff for the Razorback basketball team. We went through some of the support staff that has been added. And, some of them, again, like are kind of like crazy because, you don't even think about them or think about like that position or that role that needs to be played. But still, there's a few of them that, of course, have already been on site and on there anyways. But like, for instance, Riley Hall, which he's the director of internal operations. Riley, I'll say this about Riley. I know Riley. Riley was under Muss, and even before then, like Riley is all Arkansas. And I was extremely thrilled and excited when I saw that he was remaining on staff. that was just a huge, like, awesome thing. Because I like Riley. You know, a lot of people remember the whole, like, the cell phone thing from that kid that is at the SEC tournament who claimed that Riley grabbed his phone and threw it down on the ground and smashed it, which was completely false. But anyways, Riley's a good dude, great dude, and definitely good to see him on. He's the director of internal operations. You got Blake Wetherington as the assistant director of recruiting and scouting. You got Tommy Abdenor. Yeah, I'm going to have to get right to these names. I'm awful at names. You guys all know this, but he's a special assistant also to the head coach. You got Ryan Withoff, the coordinator of creative content. Matt Townsend, the head athletic trainer, still on board there. He also does men's golf. And Dave Richardson, who is the head strength and conditioning coach for both men, women's, and the tennis team. You also have Charlotte McIntyre, who's the sports dietitian for men and women's basketball, as well as men and women's tennis. And then the assistant equipment manager, Daniel Reeves. So those are the support staff. But as far as the actual assistant coaches go, we're pretty much knowing exactly what this is going to look like. We know, hey, John Calipari's the head coach. I don't know if you heard about it. It was in all the papers this morning. But he is the head coach. Kenny Payne was one of the ones that was first to come over with Calipari. Now, Kenny Payne was the head coach of Louisville, as we know, the past couple seasons. And I don't think there's any other way to put it. That was a failure. You know, not everybody's fit to be a head coach. And I think Kenny Payne is a great assistant coach. I think he's a great basketball mind. And I think, you know, the best years actually that Calipari had at Kentucky was when Kenny Payne was with them. So I think that was a huge get, because not only was he the Kentucky assistant coach and associate head coach from 2010 to 2020 for Kentucky, he was also at the New York Knicks as an assistant coach before becoming the Louisville head coach. So a lot of people respect him, and he's somebody that has done a great job in recruiting and developing. So it's great to see him on board. And remember when I saw him get hired, I'm like, okay, kind of getting the game back together. I'm all for it. The other one is old Chin Coleman. You got two guys on your staff named Chin and Bruiser. I mean, it's awesome. I know that it's actually Ronald Coleman, but Chin Coleman is just so much better to say. In fact, I saw his outfit the other day. I should have posted that picture. I may do it now. Like, this outfit, folks, holy crap. Come on now. That dude, I'm all for it. I am all for that outfit, my man. So anyways, he's been 13 years as a collegiate coach, built his reputation on having relationship-driven focus that forges success on the court with his players while also on the recruiting trail. And he is recognized as one of the top assistant coaches in the country. And he was on the Kentucky staff for the past 3 seasons. So he was pretty instrumental in a lot of the recruiting there at Kentucky while he was there. And he's had experience even at a place like Illinois, where they had success in some really good players there too. So, it's pretty cool to see guys that, have proven success stories. Guys that have had experience with Cal and in various ways. Like Kenny Payne wasn't on Cal's staff and hasn't been on Cal's staff since 2020, but boom, he's back. And then you got, Chin Coleman, who has been on the staff and has been at Kentucky, and he still has a role on the team and has been crucial when it comes to some of the recruiting. So, speaking of recruiting, you got old Chuck Martin, who is the recruiting coordinator, assistant coach and the recruiting coordinator for Arkansas. He has 20 years of collegiate experience, and he was named the assistant coach and recruiting coordinator. And he was on Kentucky's staff, as usual, as an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator for the 23-24 season. Now, of course, we know how great recruiting was always done at Kentucky. He was really pivotal in part of making Kentucky's 2024 class be the number 2 class in the nation, which, of course, I don't know if y'all noticed, but most of the players, at least the 5-star players there that was originally committed to Kentucky, came over and committed to Arkansas. I think that's a big part of it. But how about this? He was the assistant coach on Dana Altman's staff at Oregon. And so they had some really good players there, and Oregon had a really good run there too. And also Kwame Evans Jr. and Jermaine Quisnard, who were 2 McDonald's All-Americans. So really has a lot of experience. He was also 5 seasons at South Carolina on staff. He was also assistant coach, and the final season of being associate head coach. And, that was during a time and a stretch of Frank Martin being there. So you think he was part of that Final Four run, too, that they had. which is crazy. He was also assistant coach in Indiana. So the point is, at Oklahoma City Thunder, he was a scout. The guy knows his basketball. So I'll get to my point in bringing all this up, and I know I'm just doing a lot of updates and reading on all that too, but we just got a couple more here. The other one's Brad Calipari, John Calipari's son. He's the assistant coach and director of on-court player development, and he was actually there at Vanderbilt and at Long Island. So it's not just like he's just coming here all because he's the son. It's like at least he has worked at other places and has worked at other schools, and of course, who wouldn't want to work with their dad, and what dad wouldn't want to work with their son? You know, some people are already talking about, no, nepotism. It didn't work out very well with Eric Musselman and everything. Well, I think it's a little bit different, for one. And two, everyone talks about that stuff. They only bring that up whenever the season was bad. Like if Arkansas had a great season this past year, like nobody brings it up. Because here's the thing is like Michael Musselman was on the staff the year before when Arkansas made the Sweet 16. Nobody said a thing about it. So the point is, who cares? Who cares? If they're successful or not, that's what matters. And I really like Brad Calipari. He's somebody that's at least liked a few of my tweets for what that's worth. But and this is not offense to him. I'm just saying it's a big picture because I sincerely doubt the make or break of success at Arkansas is going to come down to Brad Calipari. As in, if Arkansas fails, it's because he hired his son. No, that's not the case. He's proven himself. He's somebody who's been in different programs. He is fit for the role. And finally, and definitely, I should say last but not least, Ronnie Brewer Jr. Ronnie Brewer Jr. Another guy that was on the staff past few years under Muss, and I am thrilled to see that he is back under Cal. Because, you know, continuity, people can say whatever it is and if it matters or not. And it's fine if it does. It's fine if it doesn't. It's whatever. But, you know, I at least appreciate and respect continuity when you can have it. But I also really respect Ronnie Brewer because I know Ronnie Brewer personally. I mean, Ronnie, he's a few years older than me, graduated actually with my brother, but, you know, K through 12 public schools, Fayetteville, man. Me and him went to the same schools, Butterfield, Woodland Junior High, McNair. I guess he didn't go to McNair, but Fayetteville High School, Purple Dogs and everything. Like Ronnie is as synonymous with Fayetteville as anybody. He loves the Razorbacks, and he's all Razorback. Him, and then, of course, the family. I mean, his dad, Ron Brewer Sr., phenomenal basketball player at Arkansas and was part of the triplets. We all know the history, but it was so incredible to see him stay on. I was really hoping for that. But it's kind of one of those things to where with what happens, you want to make sure that the coach gets who he wants and he has on his staff to make work. And if Cal did not want Ronnie on the staff and wanted somebody else, I was going to respect it. But I was really hopeful. I was really hopeful because I'm hoping, not because it's just like, I like Ronnie as a person. It's like I was hoping that Cal would see exactly the value that Ronnie would be able to add to the staff and see as that being something of value enough to keep him on. And I think that's what he did. Because let's be honest, folks, Cal is not going to come in and try to be like, I'm trying to make friends here. So, okay, I'll let a couple guys stay on because, I don't want to make everybody feel like I'm replacing everybody. I don't want to step on any toes. It's like, no, Cal's going to hire who he wants to hire. He's going to have on staff. He's going to have on staff. And he's going to get the players that he wants on the team. Like, that's just what it is. So that was good to see Ronnie get on board, be a part of the team and not have to worry about any of the, backlash or, whatever's going to be done. But I'm just really happy that he's on there, and I'm really happy for him personally. Now, I'll tell you about what all this is going to mean and why all this is very important. I will do that because I'm sure you guys are all waited with bated breath. But I got to tell you, though, about our friends over at Hopper. Hopper Termite and Pest. It's that time of year. We all know it is. Every single time that we are walking through our house and anything and we see a fly or whatever, we get the fly swatter, we swat it and all that. Well, what if it becomes a real problem? What if it becomes more than just flies? What if it becomes spiders? What if it becomes ants? What if it becomes rodents that you start seeing around your house? Centipedes, mosquitoes, wasps, ticks, everything. You're sitting there, you're like, I can't have this in my house. I don't want this in my house, but there's not enough raid for this stuff to happen. Well, call the professionals. Let the professionals handle it at Hopper Termite and Pest Control because they have a solution, a tried and true solution to be able to rid your home of all different types of pests and critters, rodents, roaches, everything. And they do it with a program that eradicates all these common pests for many weeks before it needs to even be reapplied, and it lasts through the rain. So even in the elements, even when it does hopefully have some rain here soon because it's a hot one out there. But when it does rain, they will be able to still keep the same solution there to keep those pests out of your home, to not only protect your home itself, but protect your family with health reasons and everything. They got it all. So call them today, folks. They serve the Northwest Arkansas, North Central Arkansas, and really all types of places over in the state of Arkansas. So call them today at 479-750-4070. That's 479-750-4070. You can also go to their website and check out all the things that they have to offer at callhopper.com. But when you do call them, when you do set it up, save you some money on it because you listen to us here at Natty State Sports and you listen to this show. If you use promo code Natty, N-A-T-T-Y with them, or just say that the boys from Natty State sent you, they'll give you $50 off your very first treatment. That's right, $50 off. So, hey, you want to get rid of the pest? Of course you do. You want to save some money? Of course you do. So do it with Hopper today by calling them at 479-750-4070. Okay, so we talked about the coaching staff and the staff that Cal has assembled, given the thoughts of, is it good? Is it bad? Is it, looking at the resumes? So what does all this mean? What does all this mean? Well, when I was going through and I was looking at some of the backgrounds and looking at what they've accomplished in their lives or what, the connections that they had and everything, Cal, without question, is the biggest head honcho, and he is what is driving the entire thing. Like, the excitement is not coming from any of the assistant coaches that were hired. The excitement is coming from John Calipari. We all know that. I think everybody on staff knows that, all the players. Like, that's where the excitement comes from. But as we've all known, and especially in sports, the success of so many programs really hinges on the support staff surrounding it. Head coach gets credit, players get credit. But very few times, not very often, the assistant coaches and staffers really don't get the credit that they deserve. Because sometimes they're just, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, you kind of feel like, they're just placements. They're just somebody's friend. I remember with the Mike Anderson staff, people always thought that some of the coaching staff on there was just there because it was easy, or when Bobby Petrino was the head coach. There was times where it's like, okay, well, you have an offensive coordinator, but do you really? Isn't it really just Bobby? Or you have a wide receivers coach. It's like, do you really, though? I mean, things like that where the head coach is the dictator and the other ones are just kind of there to make sure that whatever he wants gets done. But there are coaches that have different styles. And because, again, those coaches were successful in their own right. But the best coaches, the coaches that truly go through it all and truly have the most success, seems to be normally hinging on the assistants. Now, I just went through a little bit of their backgrounds, folks, in a very generic way, because every time that you go on a official athletic website for any sort of school or any sort of team, and you're going to look at their accomplishments and their resume and their background, it's going to be a glowing deal. Like, that's just how it is. No one's going to be like, well, this coach was at this school last year and he sucked. Like, no one's going to do that. So take that into consideration. However, when you look through that, though, we heard and saw about guys being head coaches of various college basketball programs and being successful at it over a period of time. We saw people being coaches, assistant coaches in the NBA for NBA teams. We saw scouts in the NBA. We saw people that were pivotal in recruiting some of the biggest names and the biggest stars of college basketball at their respective schools that they've been at. Like, this isn't just you got a great head coach with all of it, and then you got an assistant that's kind of been there forever, and then a bunch of unknowns. No, you got highly respected, highly decorated staffers across the board. Whether it's the assistant coaches or whether it's the support staff, you have rock stars. And we all know that in your program or in any program that you root for, any team that you root for, you want the best in everything. I think we talk about this all the time. There's no such thing as being the best in every single thing with your team. I know you strive for it. Everyone does, but there is no such thing, and it'll never happen. In major college basketball especially. Just because you're the best offense does not mean you're always going to have the best defense to go along with it. And even then, you may have the best three-point shooting, but doesn't mean you have the best free throw percentage. There's just so many factors that go into there where you want to be the best at everything. And the staff and the assistant coaches and everything is no different. You want to be able to have the best, brightest, greatest, most interesting, and most intriguing coaches that you possibly can to help make this thing work. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. Cal's great. Cal's one of the best. He's a Hall of Fame coach. But I promise you, he hasn't done it alone. He hasn't done it by himself, and he'd admit that. He knows how important it is. But it also is really telling to me where if you have a coach, even if he's successful, but you have a coach that really doesn't have assistants that stay a while, or if he does have assistants, they never come back. They never offered to come back. It seems like, okay, they're there a year or two or three, and then they move on, and then there's no connection there. Whenever that happens, it's not all the time, but it's pretty telling and probably alludes to the fact that maybe they didn't get really along that much. Maybe they didn't agree at times. Maybe there just wasn't a good working relationship. Maybe, there could be a various amount of reasons. Because people talk about that with Muss a lot, about how he's really hard on his assistant coaches, which I think he is, from all intents and purposes. I'm trying not to sneeze, by the way. Sorry. But he's always been really hard on his coaches. And, hey, it works out. It's successful. I mean, Gus Arginal, my guy, I love Gus. He came back and coached with Muss after the first time at Nevada, then coming back and coaching in Arkansas. So it's not to say that's always the case. But with Cal, he's a guy that has been around a very, very long time and has had every bit. I mean, he's accomplished everything you can accomplish in college basketball. Everything. Not only with his teams, but with his players. The draft picks, the NBA, the number 1 overall picks, the All-Americans, the player of the year. I mean, everything. There's not a single award or accomplishment that Calipari has not accomplished in college basketball. And that's a span over a very long time. But to see the amount of assistant coaches, to see the amount of staffers that have worked with him, whether it's last year, whether it was for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 24 years, no matter what it is, to see coaches that left and came back, whatever it is, that shows you how much they love, respect, and are all in on Calipari and what he does. Kenny Payne, it didn't work out for him at Louisville. We know that. And he was assistant coach on the New York Knicks. He was in the NBA for a while. You don't think that he could have probably gotten about any other assistant coaching job that came available? You don't think that he would be in a hot commodity? He absolutely would have been. But he went with Cal. He worked with Cal for a long time. He could have been like, all right, I did that for 10 years, man. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of working with him. No, he came back. He wants to continue on with Cal. A lot of these coaches, a lot of these people want to continue on with Cal. So, again, I'm saying all that just to say that is a really good indication of the type of program and the type of culture that Calipari has. I'll admit, I used to hate the guy. And I'm not above saying that I don't hate him now because he's our guy, Like, I made the joke of how many people are going to have to delete their tweets, Razorback fans, after now he's the coach. So, I mean, I'll fully admit that. I'm not too arrogant or too saying oh, well, it's different back then. No, it was true. It was true. But sometimes you kind of have to have your eyes opened up and look a little bit deeper than what's everything on surface level. And that's what I think has happened with Cal. You don't have players speak as highly as they do about him, former players of his, if you're not great. You don't have the amount of success on the court and being able to, everywhere you've gone, have high success if you're not great. And you're not going to have the great assistant coaches that work with you for decades or who move on and come back to you if you're not great. Calipari is a coach that, say what you want about him, say, he's slick, he's sly, he's whatever. But hey, the people around him, they respect him and they love him enough. They're where they want to keep working with him. That's something that's, again, very telling. Very telling. And I think this is not only going to make Arkansas successful on the court moving forward and recruiting and all the things when it comes to player development, but also just having a great culture of a program that keeps everybody on the same page and doing their same things the way that they're supposed to be doing. That's going to be extremely important. So we'll continue on here with the discussion of everything going on in the Razorback side of things. But first, folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Alumni Hall. We know Alumni Hall is the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. If you're a Razorback fan, you need apparel. You need to look good. You want to wear that hog. You want to show a little hog. You know what I'm saying? Well, you can show it all off when you go over to Alumni Hall because they have everything that you could possibly imagine when it comes to apparel and decor. Men, women's, children's, pets, everything. And they have high-quality stuff. So that's the thing that also kind of separates them. I mean, you can go to different stores and get you a Razorback shirt. Of course you can. But when it comes to the high-quality stuff, the stuff that lasts forever, the stuff that looks good, that feels good, that just is the best shirt you've ever worn type stuff, Alumni Hall has that, and nobody else does. They got Johnny O. They got Peter Millar. They got Columbia. They got Nike. They got everything you could possibly imagine. So check them out today. They have their convenient location right there at 3417 North College Avenue here in Fayetteville, but a lot of you can't get to Fayetteville. A lot of you don't live in Fayetteville. A lot of you still want to be Razorback fans and represent them across the world. Well, don't you worry, because if you go to nattystatesports.com/alumni hall, that's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. If you go to that website, you'll be able to see all what they have to offer in a catalog, and you can have it shipped directly to you. Don't even have to worry about going to the store. Just go to that website, nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. You go to that, and you're able to go right and see it and have it delivered straight to your door. So check them out today. It's Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, Razorback fans, it is time for your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency securing what matters the most. We already talked about the Razorback men's basketball staff editions that were put forth, and nice to see some more faces as this thing continues to kind of build and to get into where it needs to be. And I'm sure that won't be the last thing that we ever hear about some of the changes there for the Razorback basketball team itself. So, not only do you have that, but you also have some news coming forth with Razorback baseball as Hagen Smith, Razorback ace pitcher, and infielder Peyton Stovall, Stovey, they were named All-Americans by the American Baseball Coaches Association as well as Rawlings. Smith earned first-team recognition as starting pitcher, his third first-team All-American honor from the ABCA and Rawlings, while Stovall garnered third-team praise at second base to become the 34th All-American in program history. So we kind of know all about Hagen Smith and what he accomplished, and not surprising to see him right there. But let me say this, and I'm going to go on a little mini tangent here about a particular player. And I know that, I'm not doing it for him because he probably doesn't even care if I do this or not, but let me tell you something about Peyton Stovall, folks. Peyton Stovall, when he was coming out of high school, was a player out of Houghton, Louisiana, that was considered to be the best, if not one of the best, prospects in high school. I mean, we're talking about a kid that nobody thought there was any chance he was going to end up playing college baseball because he was that good coming out of high school. And being in Louisiana, he was a kid that a lot of people didn't even, consider going to LSU because at the time LSU didn't really recruit him. There's maybe some reasons for that. My gut feeling is probably that they didn't see any reason, any know-how of he was going to come play college baseball. Again, that's just my theory. But the MLB draft happened, and Stovall was, I believe at the time, picked just right outside of the first round. He was the number one prospect overall and the number one shortstop in the state of Louisiana that year. And he was ranked as the, number 16 player in a high school player in the MLB draft prospect by Baseball America and all that. But either way, it didn't look like he was going to be one of those like first couple picks. It was probably going to be late first, early second, somewhere in there. So he decided to go to Arkansas because that's where he had committed, and that's where he wanted to go. And it was shocking. I remember I got a text from my buddy, Matt Moscona, down at ESPN 104.5 Baton Rouge, and said the fact that that kid is playing college baseball is one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen. Because he said he was the greatest baseball player coming out of high school in Louisiana that they've ever even witnessed. There was just no chance. And so when I saw that, I was like, man, I'm baseball kind of ended or whatever. But I was like, man, I want to try to get this kid on my show. Like, this is a big deal. So I slid into his DMs. I was like, hey, you want to come on my radio show? I was doing a show on The Buzz at the time. And he responded immediately. He's like, yeah, man, we'd love to. It's like, great. Okay. Well, let me tell you something, folks, too. There have been some different stories that you could say about high school players. And I'm not saying all of them are this way. And I'm not saying disrespectful because I would have been the same way as a high school kid. 17, 18-year-old kids don't interview well. Just by and large do not. They don't do interviews. They haven't been coached to do interviews. They're still kids, like really like teenagers, nervous, a little bit like, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. They don't come, it's just, they don't know. They don't understand that, hey, you can't do one-word answers, stuff like that. It's just basics, which again, you can't hate them for it, but it's just part of it. But I had Stovall on my show that day, and I could not believe how incredible he was at interviews. Like, he was 17 years old. And I had buddies of mine texted me who were big baseball fans. People, they're like, that kid has me pumped for baseball before, like, and that I've never been before. Like, it was incredible. Well, then Stovall comes on and everything. And I was trying to get him for an NIL deal once NIL became a thing because he was such a great interview and all that. Asked if he was interested. He said, absolutely. Let me get you with my people. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting at a place called Town Pump in Little Rock with my friends. And I hadn't heard from, him or anything like that. But then I see a phone call I get. I'm like looking at it. I'm like, some California number. I'm not going to answer that. Whatever. And then it leaves a voicemail. And, usually if something leaves a voicemail, you're like, okay, well, that's a little weird. So I'll pick it up and listen. It's a woman. It's like, oh, it's so-and-so. No, I'm from Boris Agency and everything. And I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. It's like, oh, I guess it's his rep. I was like, well, hold on a second. Did she say Boris? Like Scott Boris? Went back and listened. Scott Boris Agency. Asked my buddy, I was like, dude, put this number in your phone and see what pops up. Scott Boris Agency. Yo, that's who represented him. And so because of that, I met with them and got it all done. But I was able to, he was on the show. He was great. I was fortunate enough to also have a good working and friendly relationship with his parents, with his family. And it turned into where he and a lot of the players would come to our tailgate for football. And it was a great time. It was a great time. But I said all that and kind of set that up just to kind of give background for what I'm really going to say. Peyton Stovall, I don't know what he's going to do in the pros. I know he dealt with injury. His sophomore year was riddled with injury. This year he had injuries in the start, but he was overall really good. I mean, hitting at all of it. And he was a great leader. But there was not a more impressive and a greater kid that's now a young man that I have ever dealt with in sports than Peyton Stovall. Because he had every reason to be a jerk, to be arrogant, to be, like, I don't have time for you people because I'm about to go pro and I'm about to be in the big leagues. And no, that was never, ever how he was. The nicest, kindest, and most respectful person that I could ever see that was given the circumstances. Because I'm telling you right now, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, if I had that up much like focus and all that stuff, it'd be tough for me not to get in my own head and be a little bit arrogant. But he never was. So I know I just went on a tangent about that, but I just wanted to, say with Stovall, congrats to him being an All-American, but to give everybody also a little bit of background, just how much I respect him and wish him nothing but the best in the pros. I never know who's going to work out or not. I think he's got all the potential in the world. I think he'll be a third-round pick, just from what I've been reading and what I've been hearing. Hopefully it's higher. But again, I can't say anything about how good it'll translate into the majors, but what I can say is that no matter where he goes, he's going to be a great teammate and a great guy. So appreciate him, and congratulations to him being as part of the All-American team. That's big time. That's awesome. Thought there was another thing also in the part of things for Arkansas, but no, I guess that's it. How about that? Pretty simple, straight to the point when it comes to Razorback sports and the Arkansas side of things too. And it's your Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance. So before we continue on, though, folks, I'm going to tell you, though, about our friends over at Signature Bank. We know Signature Bank is the place that we do our banking here at Natty State Sports, and we always appreciate them because they're always going to take care of us and make sure that we're taken care of every single step of the way. We have a lot of things going on in our lives. We do. But one thing that we should never have to worry about is what our money is going to be, where it's going to be, and if it's going to be there. Whatever bank we do. Well, with Signature Bank, you never have to worry about that because they're community focused. They're focused on you. They're focused on people here in Arkansas. You know, they're not a small bank that doesn't have the resources to address every single one of your needs, but they're not a huge bank that's going to look at you as a number. They're going to look at you as a person and treat you as such. They're going to do the same thing with your livelihood, with your finances. And it doesn't matter if it's personal or business. Do it with Signature Bank. They are really the experts and the best people that you could possibly have when it comes to dealing with your finances. So check them out today. You can go to their website at signature.bank. That's signature.bank. You can also go to any of their convenient locations here across the Northwest Arkansas area because they were born here in Northwest Arkansas, just like many of us. So again, check them out today at signature.bank. That's Signature Bank, the official bank of Natty State Sports.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, Razorback fans, you got a few recruiting things going on right now. How about that? A little Razorback football and a little Razorback baseball and getting some new additions. We talked about a new addition that came yesterday for the Razorback football team on the offensive line, which, you know, I guess there's always a little bit of a domino effect that can really end up happening. But Arkansas got another offensive lineman. You got a guy by the name of Connor Howes. It's Howes. I'm hoping it's Howies. It's Howes, has to be. Anyways, he's from Florida. And he is an offensive tackle that's 6'5.5", 295 pounds. So good, solid strength there. He's a 3-star overall player. And according to 24/7 Sports Composite, he is sub 90. So right there is a high, depending on where you look at it. But the composite has him as a 4-star for the Razorbacks. But if you look at his offers and everything, you're probably going to be like, oh, my goodness, where's this guy coming from? Like, what does it mean? Well, he's taking visits to Ole Miss and whatnot. But as far as offers go, he did have offers to Miami. He had offers to Mississippi State, Ole Miss, NC State, UCF, which we got to start saying, hey, they're a Power 5 team now, as well as USF, Rutgers, Troy, Houston, Florida Atlantic, Charlotte, Ball State, and Arkansas State. So a few SEC schools in there, a few Power 5 schools, but Arkansas is able to add in another offensive line. You can never have too many of those, but it's great to see that Mateos is getting after it and trying to make it work with them. Because, offensive line, you can never have too many of those, especially for the depth and pushing each other and trying to get better. But, yeah, they've been really working on that and hammering that. So good to know that they're going to be bringing him in. And according to 24/7 Sports, the quote was, I am really big with creating a relationship with the coach. It says at the end of the day, you are going to be with the O-line more than you are going to be with any other coach. If you can't create a relationship with him, a bond with him, then it's not the right school for you. He was also first-team all-conference following his junior season. And what he loved about Arkansas was the environment, he says, between the coaches and getting to hang out with the players and how they interact with each other, the facilities, the education. Got to speak with some of the people in academics. Everything about it was amazing to me. So big, okay, you could say big get, big not get, whatever. But still, adding in a composite 4-star offensive lineman, can't go wrong with that. And then also for Razorback baseball, those are the ones that I'm sure people are really interested in too, because they're trying to build up their roster and trying to get back to, if they're really looking to get more athletes, as Dave Van Horn talked about, and kind of change a little thing offensively, that's going to be very important. But they got their second transfer out of the transfer portal, and it is Florida Gulf Coast outfielder Charles Davelin. I always wondered about this. There's so many players out there in college baseball. and so many people to scout and so many people to enter in the portal. It's like, man, amount of people you got to look at probably makes it a lot of things of knowing who's going to be. But they were able to pick him up. He swung for .288 batting average with the Eagles this season as a freshman while hitting 10 home runs and driving in 38 runs as the team's leadoff hitter. Leadoff, you say? The native from Canada, so he's a Canadian, was tied for third on the team with 16 doubles and swiped 13 bases on 18 attempts. How about that? He had a fielding percentage of .960 with 7 errors and compiled an on-base percentage of .413 and 276 plate appearances while also slugging .514. So there's some of those numbers you in there will be like, I don't know about that. Like, that doesn't look very good. That doesn't sound very promising. What's going on there? Well, okay, you can take it however you want. But again, when you're talking about trying to get more athletes in there, seems like this might be one of those deals that can help you out in the athleticism department. I'm going to be interested to see how Arkansas's baseball offense looks next year. Like, just to see if is it going to be as different as what I think everyone's hoping for? Is it going to be like an overhaul in the roster of the type of player they've recruited? Are we going to see guys slimming down and being faster? You know, we're going to see small ball a lot more, trying to get bunts down, trying to advance runners, stealing bases. Like, how's that going to look is going to be the question. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not saying Arkansas never stole bases this past season, but man, I don't remember many of them. Don't remember many of them at all. And I'm not saying you always have to be a team that steals a bunch of bases, but geez, you got to have something. You got to at least have the threat of it. You got to at least have somebody out there trying to be keeping the pitcher on his toes when he's about to hit his windup. Like, you got to have something. So we'll see exactly as the roster continues to go. And who knows? I mean, this type of player that comes in doesn't mean he's like, oh, yeah, this is a surefire starter. I mean, who knows? But at least what we do know is that with Dave Van Horn, he's only going to get players that feels like he can actually do things and help with the team and all of that. So it's definitely a big one to help out Dave. But we'll continue to talk about more of the things going on in the sports world here in a second. But, folks, I got to tell you about Jennings Law, one of our partners here at Natty State Sports. Just like in sports, preparation is key, though. And at Jennings Law, they understand that more than anybody. They specialize in estate planning, including crucial documents like trusts and wills and power of attorney and healthcare directives, and they ensure that your family is protected and provided for no matter what comes your way. Don't leave the future for chance. Contact Jennings Law today to create a plan that's as comprehensive as it is comforting. They are experts in what they do, and they are going to make sure that they get you taken care of when it comes to anything that you need in trust, business planning, elder law, all of it. They're the people. So check them out today. Call them at 501-501-WILL. That's 501-501-9455. Or you can check out their website at ljenningslaw.com. And no matter what it is, do it with somebody who's a Razorback fan. Do it with an Arcans and do it with a great guy. Do it with Jennings Law at 501-501-WILL. That's 501-501-9455.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, it is time for the Hey Y'all See This segment, and of course it is brought to you by Superior Contracting and Development. They are the licensed residential commercial contractor specializing in all aspects of home building and remodeling. We handle everything from fencing and drainage, additions, remodeling of your existing structure, all the way to land development and ground-up construction. You can call them today for interior and exterior construction and remodeling needs at 501-453-3053. You can also check out their new website at superiorcontractingar.com. No matter what it is, though, and you need any sort of interior and exterior design and construction, do it with Superior Contracting Development out of Valonia at 501-453-3053. Now, we know that there's always some good stuff, some good juice, some funny things to talk about when it comes to the world of sports, but there's also some stuff that is too good to pass up in the not-so world of sports, too. So let's go ahead and jump into the Hey Y'all See This. This is a fun one, too, to talk a little bit about sports. The Big 12, apparently, is in discussions with Allstate to potentially rename the league to the Big All-State Conference. That's right, Big All-State Conference. They're trying to get the naming rights deal, which could be worth between $30 to $50 million annually. And name possibilities include, according to Brett McMurphy, Big All-State Conference or All-State 12 Conference. Dude. Okay, here's the thing. We know it's all about money. And we also know that the amount of money that has been put forth and has gotten with sponsorships has been a lot. That's why football games are so long and people always complain about it. That's why they're always trying to find ways to speed up the game, not because that they want to, actually make it better. They just want to be able to get more commercial breaks in and more commercials itself while not having something that drags out for 5 hours. So anyways, I get it. And I also get that the Big 12 is a conference that has had their ups and downs. And by losing Texas and Oklahoma, I think they salvaged themselves about as good as you could ask with some of the teams that they've added. Could have been a lot worse, but I think they're going to be okay. But still, I don't know, man. Like it's one thing to have sponsorships for teams and for, media days or, anything like that. But to come out here and say like, hey, we're going to just name the conference after a company, that's pretty impressive. I don't know of any, because there's no other sport that really has that. Like imagine in the NBA, you had the Western, instead of the Western Conference, it was called the Western Sizzling, Conference, something like that. Or, anything in the NFL and in those divisions, say the AFC East, it's the KFC, chicken something Eastern, like whatever. But like this, it's just funny when you start putting it in that perspective. But apparently, so the Big 12 is trying to do, and hey, it's about money. I get it, and that's a lot of money. $30 to $50 million annually is a lot of money. But still, it's just, I don't know if I'll ever get used to that. So this is a crazy thing. This is according to Kendall Rogers, speaking of college baseball. Ohio State. Ohio State's a really big-time program. I mean, it is. I mean, a lot of money, a lot of supporters, everything. Football's king. But if you really think about it, Ohio State, basketball hasn't been overly great. Baseball hasn't been overly great. They don't really have a whole lot of other great sports, at least in the high level of sports. But anytime you see this is quite the crazy thing. Because Ohio State's head coach, Bill Mazzello, is leaving just after 2 seasons at Ohio State to return to TCU, not as the head coach, but as the top assistant and hitting coach. So they lost, because TCU lost their hitting coach, TJ Bruce. And in return, they hired the head coach from Ohio State. Now, it would be one thing if there was a coach that was at a certain school and he had been there for a long time and he was about to get fired anyways and went to be an assistant somewhere like that. That's one thing. But when you're talking about a guy that was a coach for 2 years and is still very much in the beginning parts and the beginning stages of building a program and being at a place like Ohio State, which is a major Power 5 program, there's no question about it. I'm not saying the baseball program's great, but it's still a Power 5 big program, big school, and major sport at said school. But to leave to go to be an assistant coach and you're fine with that, that says a lot. I think it says a lot about Ohio State more than anything. But unless they're paying him a lot more or paying him good, or if they're, maybe he just hates it up there in Columbus, which I don't see how you couldn't. Maybe he doesn't have the support, which I'm sure he doesn't. Like the Big Ten's not a great baseball place as it is. I guess Michigan had that kind of stretch where they had some good years, made it to Omaha once. But yeah, just anytime you see something like that, it's kind of like, whoa, man, it must be really, really, really bad over there. Another deal, Coleman Hawkins. Remember Coleman Hawkins was, one of those guys that was into the mix and possibly, jumping ship going to Arkansas, or at least in possibilities of going to Arkansas, anything like that. But he has officially announced his transfer to Kansas State. It's like, okay, see you there, Kansas State. All right. Jerome Tang has had some few players and everything. But he's getting $2 million. He's getting $2 million. This is according to Shams. He's a 6'10" Illinois transfer in what's believed to be the most lucrative college basketball NIL deal of $2 million negotiated by a collective by Nate Conley of Court. Dude, is that 14? I'm hoping. And I can't read Roman numerals. And Aaron Turner of Versus Basketball. So this guy's getting $2 million to go to Kansas State. I don't know about that, man. And like the article says, congrats to Coleman Hawkins being the richest man in college basketball this year. That's impressive. But yeah, he's getting $2 million to go to Kansas State. And people from Iowa State were already talking trash. They're like, yeah, with this edition, you guys can make it further than the NIT this year. And then he just posts a picture of him dunking over some Iowa State. So he's already getting after it. But $2 million for him going to Kansas State, I don't know. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of potatoes. That's a lot of stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. Good luck. Good luck. Maybe you're going to be like, you better have something. You better do something. Because I'm going to criticize you. Everybody's going to criticize you. If you go out there and you're averaging, 7 and 4, nobody's going to respect you. And finally, Giselle. Giselle and Tom Brady were there forever. And if you watch the Tom Brady roast, which was pretty incredible, to be honest, the Tom Brady roast was really epic. Really epic. And it was a long time. And it was just like some of the jokes and some of the things you're just like, whew, man, it's intense. But anyways, a lot of the jokes were made. I wish I could play them, but a lot of the jokes were made at the expense of Tom Brady and Giselle and their breakup and everything. The fact that Giselle was dating a jiu-jitsu instructor, because that's what was happening. Oh, they broke up and that's who he was with, or she was with. Well, now, according to Page 6, Giselle and Joaquim Valente is his name. They split. They're broken up over, quote, stress from the Tom Brady roast. It says an insider told In Touch Weekly Thursday that the spotlight was too much for Valente. Joaquim is a regular guy. He's not used to all the attention that he was getting. Said the insider said things took to the worst following Brady's Netflix special, which included several jabs at the pair's romance. Joaquim became a part of the joke. People actually started asking if he was the reason for their divorce, and he hated that. The Brazilian beauty reportedly blames the break on Tom, whom she divorced in 2022. Says by agreeing to the roast, he basically put a target on Joaquim's back, they said. Well, here's the thing. I kind of feel bad for Joaquim in a way. I mean, hopefully it was just something like after they broke up, because let's be honest, if you were a single man and Giselle, after breaking up with Tom Brady, was interested in you, and that was, you'd probably be like, all right, yeah, I'd do it. So, you'd go follow through with it. But yeah, anyways, kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, not really. And then the fact that Giselle's blaming the breakup on Tom Brady because he's the one that agreed to the roast. It's like, I think that's a roundabout way of just trying to blame somebody that you can't blame, like the people, can't blame the comedians. You got to blame Tom. So just keep going back to Tom. Keep going back to Tom. Surely that'll work out for you. But still thought it was really funny regardless. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in, watching in to The John Nabors Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to The John Nabors Show all across all social media. And have a great weekend, everybody. Same sports show, same sports channel next Monday.